Hello there, very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us through live on Facebook. On behalf of Pick a Book, we'd like to welcome you to the Flip Side webinar series, Lessons from Two Outstanding Books. Some of you may have read the books that we have been advertising for the past couple of days. It's interesting to see what these two authors have got to say, but we've got to introduce as to why we're doing this on behalf of Pick a Book. Pick a Book encourages a reading habit by getting all participants to select a book and read and research it thoroughly and present the summary, which helps his or her to improve his knowledge, public speaking skills, communication, presentation. I'm getting my tongue twisted as well. And Pick a Book not only inculcates the habit of reading, but it also helps to impart knowledge as well. So we mentioned two books that we're going to learn, but we have a very special audience that we're targeting for today, and that is to the corporate audience. So we'd like to welcome you as well, and to all of you who are streaming us from wherever you are, any part of the country, good evening to you as well. Each speaker will take 3 to 4 minutes to give out based on the questions that I'm asking. And I'm sure on my screen is I'm your moderator. I'll be asking a few tough questions, fun questions. You can send in your questions as well. Let's try to keep it engaging and get the best out of the two books that we're about to learn, and also keep it more interesting to support our real life balance as well. Now, to introduce you to our speakers, she wasn't a book reader until a friend of hers who is no longer there. We're really sad to hear about her story, but she introduced The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And from there, she has made it a habit to spend a quality of time in reading. And indeed, it has helped her in a lot of ways, both personally and professionally. And she loves human connections, and she loves to understand different perceptions of life. It'll be interesting to see how she'll sort of study me as well. Love quality conversations and about random topic in life general. We're going to have a lot of random conversations. We're great to have with us member of PAB United, works for UTE as a manager human resources. Everybody say hello to Arlene. Good evening. Hi, Arlene.
Good evening to you.
Great to have you with us. And joining us next is a gentleman who is currently employed as a DME at InspireX Digital, content creator digital. And he started reading recently along with membership, which he got from Pick a Book. And he wanted to say that he enjoys reading this book. He said he took about a month, but I think he was joking. It added a lot of values, and that's why he picked this book. And he also says that my second book also hopes to learn and mow through it and can be a better version of himself. That's what Vidura is all about. Member of PAB, digital marketing executive at InspireX Digital. Good evening, Vidura.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to have you.
All right. We're going to start things off nice and easy. How are you both doing? Tell us why we're addressing a different audience, and that is the corporate sector. And we're seeing a mix of people, managerial, top, executive. We're not going to drive into these different target audiences, but we're going to look at the two books for today, which is Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson, which will be spoken by Arlene, and then The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma, which was also a very popular book. I'm going to start with Arlene. Tell us why you chose this book. What was the reason behind reading it? Why did you want to choose and talk about it here at Flipside, Arlene?
Hi, all there. And we get a lot of recommendations of books these days. We have a lot of platforms like Pick a Book. On different social medias, we get recommendations. And especially, I see this period, we encourage people to read a lot of hard printed books than on digital devices. So I am from HR, so I get to read and get recommendations of a lot of books about personal development, self growth, change management, topics like that. So this book was recommended to me long ago, but I didn't get to read it until I happened to read a review of this book saying simple but intimidating the intelligence. So it was quite a contradicting statement to me because my thoughts, because for me, if a person can explain a complex concept in a simple way, then that that person I would understand as an intelligent person. So for me, that thought was that review was contradicting. I wanted to read the book. So that's how I happened to read the book. And why I chose to talk about it today is, and it's timely. It talks about change management and how you cope up with change, and it's so timely. And the other thing is, the book is about it, the concept. The core concept is brought through a parable, so you can relate it easily with your real life. So it's interesting to present and talk about it. Relate a lot with your real life. You can talk about a lot of experience and you can relate it. That's why I chose. I thought it would be interesting to talk about it.
Okay, so real life experiences, a book that can be read by anyone. Is that what you're saying? Anyone and everyone? Would you give it like an age group? Probably candidates after O levels can start reading this book, or maybe even at a younger age. Would you advise that?
Yeah, I mean, like, even in young age, because change happens across your age groups, right? But only thing that you should be able to relate it, the parable, with your own life or the experiences. So anybody who can understand that part can go for it.
All right, Arlene, thank you very much. Arlene, stay with us. Dr. Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese, and we also see audiences joining in. I know it's slightly late, isn't it, that you guys are joining, but we love to hear from you. If you have read about Dr. Spencer Johnson's book, Who Moved My Cheese, we like to see a raise of hand. We like you to say hello. We like to hear from you, just to hear your reviews as to what you thought about the book, while I also speak to Vidura now. Vidura, you've got a very interesting one, which is by a very popular author himself. What did you feel, or what perceived you to read this book?
Well, actually, I joined the PAB club recently, so I picked my first book, The Reader Who Had No Title, at first, because I think leadership was something very familiar to me because I actually worked for ISAC, a leadership organization, for almost 5 years. So in that organization, we believe that in ISAC, that the leadership is the fundamental solution for most of the problems out there. So, so this book felt familiar to me, so I picked this up and I read it, and I think like there are a lot of things that I have to learn from this book, like including the 4 principles that it talks about, and I have already started practicing some of the values that I read in this book, and already changing like some of my values in a better way. So I think that's the main reason that I picked this book. Uh, so after joining the Pick a Book Club, I think that initially I didn't have any interest in reading any books, but after reading this book, I felt like a book can actually make a change in the personality of any person. So I already picked my second book, The Virgin Ways by Richard Branson. So I'm hopefully trying to finish that book as soon as possible.
Vidura, a lot of people do read books, and they apply these practices the next day immediately, or whenever they gain good knowledge. For example, try to solve a matter today without putting it tomorrow. But
Yeah.
then eventually, after a period of time, you tend to forget this. How do you refresh yourself, or do you take notes from a particular book, or is that something that, okay, I love this book, so all that content is on my head?
No, actually, I don't think I can keep most of the content in my head. So what I did was I actually extracted what I can do from this book. So the first thing which I'm trying to practice is waking up at 5, which is one of the most difficult tasks that I've ever faced, because I know that if you are not waking up just to go to work, there's no any other reason for you to wake up early. You can just sleep for extra 1.5 hours. But like I started practicing waking up early. So currently I'm waking up at 6:50. Uh, but uh, that means I'm waking up 45 minutes early. Uh, the reason I'm trying to practice that continuously is because uh, previously when I started going to work, I wake up, I brush my teeth, get ready, take a wash, and run to work. Right now, I have extra 45 minutes to think about what I'm going to do at work and think about myself. If I'm going to watch a video or listen to something, or listen to music, like to bring a new habit to myself, I have set enough extra 45 minutes. So I'm trying to expand that amount of time at least by another 45 minutes in the future. But I'm slowly practicing to do it because it's not an easy task. Like in the leader without title, the framework that's given it's a 40-day challenge, so it's not easy. So I'm planning to do it continuously because it said that if you practice something continuously for 21 days, that will be a habit of yours. So I'm planning to do at least for 21 days and see whether I can continue this or not. But hopefully, I will wake up at 5, maybe within the next 21 days.
Great, but we love your enthusiasm because you've taken an effort to wake up at. So I'm a morning person, so it's very easy for me to wake up early morning. But I know a lot of people find it very difficult, especially people who have a lot going on, and especially mothers, etc. They have a lot to do. So in the instance of their work routine, it's a little tough. But I'm going to come back to you, Vidura, and ask you the key lessons that you learned, etc. But Arlene, let's go back to your book, Who Moved My Cheese? I sense that it's a lot to do with change, and it's not a subject that a lot of people like. Although we are very positively, we embrace the topic of change. We say we like to change, we love to move into positivity, but then one negative gossip is enough to kill the momentum of what a person would go through. But do tell us, what is the essence of this book?
So, as you had put it very well. It's about change, yeah, coping with change. But rather that, I would put it how you look at it. So, if I talk about the book is structured like in three chapters. The very first chapter is where a group of friends come together, and after a college reunion, they come and sit and they talk. So during the course of the discussion, they understand that not all of them are not happy as they seem to be. So why the underlying issue is the changes that are happening in their life, and what the expectation and what is happening now is bothering them. So then one person says that I too had the same issue until I heard this small little story, and that's how I changed the way I looked at it. That's how the essence of the chapter starts. Uh, so the first message the author is trying to give is through a parable. Four characters he chooses: two little mice and two little people searching for their own happiness, which is the cheese, in a maze. So they have their own ways behind the cheese. Every day they have a routine, and they spend days and days, and finally they find cheese. So that's one situation, and how they react and respond towards achieving that cheese. And once they achieve the cheese, uh, how they deal with it. And one fine day they lose it, and how do they deal with that change? So that's how the fourth chapter goes. And the third chapter is the discussion of the key take or key notes from that parable. So if you talk about the whole book as one, the author emphasizes that change is inevitable. How you look at it and how you embrace it is what's important. So if you dwell with what you have, I mean what you're going through, and things, if you think that things will change, I will not change, but things will change for me, it will never happen. So at one point, you have to adapt and move on. You have to go with the flow and move on. That's what he talks about.
Arlene, I have a bit of a question. Now, let's say, based on point one, let's take the job environment, etc. And a lot of them probably, now let's forget COVID period, okay? There's no bonus, there's no increments, none of those are there, so we can't even think about it. But there is a point where a lot of people will be looking at increments, etc. If this happened like 2 years ago, forgetting COVID, everybody would be like, I did a lot for my company, but there was no change. Am I going to stay in the same place? What's my improvement? What's the kind of positive take that a person can take through the book? Should they change the way they work, or should they look at a more prospective side? Because there should be something that, based on your experience in human resources also, how do you see and how do you sort of advise people in a situation like that?
So, if we are talking about this, okay, let's talk about this rewards and recognition part. So it has not changed, right? It has been paused or it has been held because of this change. So we have to understand that because the policy of any company is not changing. Just we are telling the employees or the organizations are telling the employees when we perform, we share it with you all because you
Correct.
had contributed to it. And this period is something it nobody had seen it coming through. So it's a change or rather a risk that we all together had embraced. So now we have to let it go, or we will give it in when we perform better. So it's
Okay.
not a change. So
Yeah.
reward and recognition and how people see it, it's not a change because the company policy hasn't changed. It's that people has to understand that this change has happened because of the change, the repercussion of this change is this. So you have to understand it.
Hmm. So
You
you
know,
have to take it in that spirit and then act
spirit.
according to that. Okay. Vidura, how do you see this? How has Robin Sharma showed in terms of the learning curve of this, a leader without a title? It shows like a big deal today in Sri Lanka, isn't it? To have a title, to be out there with so much of names. But then there has to be some kind of a lesson that we want to learn from a book.
Yeah, in the book, it clearly mentioned that the companies which like thrive up in the ladder, they are practicing good. They have good HR practices. Like even in their culture, even in their within their teams, they have good HR practices. Like the mindset, the positivity, the optimism within the HR in those companies, like it's really remarkable. So in the lead without title, it clearly says that uh, like if you take Sri Lanka mostly, like most of the companies, they have people with titles, but who lacks leadership. When I read this book, I understand a lot of things about leadership, which is really vital for a person with a title. If you are a person with a big title, you need to have a set of qualities. So those qualities are really necessary for an organization to compete within in the current context. If we take COVID as an example, it's a big tragedy. It's not easy for any company to survive. But imagine that company has a set of people, a set of employees who has that mindset to purposefully be driven to the cause for the purpose what they are doing for. Then they will actually, working for something that they love. So if they have that mindset, I think any company can thrive at this moment. If you take my company, like starting from the CEO Dinesh, he's a very impactful character who's empowering us to do like new things, be innovative. He always asks us to be the CEO of whatever the task we are doing. So he's giving us that freedom so we can perform in our peak. So that kind of leadership should be there in all the organization, even for Sri Lanka. If we can have that mindset within every company, that would be really helpful for the employees below them. In the book, it says like if you are a janitor, like clean the company like you are Michelangelo painting a painting, like Shakespeare writing a poem. So that mindset you need to have in each and every individual in the company. With that, I think any company can thrive under this situation.
Okay. I'm going to cross back to Arlene now. I see that Johnson has helped a lot to see how change is beneficial to a lot of people and in life, in your work, in the routines that people go through. What sort of changes have you experienced in life? How did you react to these changes? And a lot of them do feel that, because I, as a personally, if I feel like I have changed, I do tend to tell my friends, if I'm turning into a bad person, you remind me, you be the person to tell me. But there should be someone to tell you that. But how do you see this in terms of the book sharing us insights? How do you see, what's the best way to say it? Because Arlene, sometimes when people say that you're changing, it can be very hurtful, isn't it? The way the people react. I see you smiling, so I sense there's something really interesting in the book.
Okay. First, I am. If you talk about myself as a person, I'm very adaptive. I uh, I do dwell, like there are four characters in the book, and one of the characters, what happens is when the cheese is lost, this little person waits for the cheese at that cheese station, thinking that somebody else would put it back. So he
Oh,
waits until the end. Okay.
this reminds me of what happens in the corporate world where you let the other person do the job.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not that.
Okay.
But also I take time to understand until I feel uh, uh, that I have to let it go, or I have to stop it, or I have to change. I have to buy in that change. So I take time for it, but then I don't dwell with that forever. So that's me. But I have I have used the insights of this book a lot with the employees as individuals when they come with grievances happening in the workplace. It can be a scope change, or they've changed to a different division, or they want a promotion that they're not happy with because they don't see a growth. They want a change. So when things happen like that, in terms of grievance management, uh, I have used a lot of the insights which Spencer has shared.
Okay.
It goes like enjoy the change so that you will buy it very quickly.
Ali,
You have to believe.
what was your favorite part in the book? There should be like a turnaround point where you would be like, wow, this is it. This is what it is.
So the after the parable, the story, during the story, he has put out the key notes, the key points as wall writings.
Mhm.
Like so, what would you do if you're not fear? If you don't have that fear, what would you do? True, right? We fear of change. That's why we don't change. We just want to hold on to our old beliefs because we don't. We're so comfortable in our space, and we're emotionally connected. So if you look at, I think if you look at people who do not change, why they are not changing? Because they're so comfortable and they don't want to go out their comfort zone. So that specific word, if you're not fearful, if you don't have that fear, what would you be? So
Okay.
that's something that I always tell my I mean whoever comes to me to
So
for
it's a
grievance.
point, it's a point of taking a risk and also adapting to change, a very positive one. But I'd like to hear from my audience. How do you embrace change? Do you like to change? Do you see it happening? I know when COVID struck all of us, it was like lost in pandemonium. And how do we react to the situation? Some of us were really smart in the way we approached. Some of us were very careful. We were, I mean, taking care of ourselves in the way we did things. But it's also a big question as to how we move forward with adapting to change. And it's interesting to see how Dr. Johnson has detailed this through a cheese and a mouse, and when the story goes on, I know that imaginative, creative thing that comes in as to how would you do it. Would you let someone do it, or would you do it yourself? So we'd like to hear from the audience. Roberto is joining us, and we got Akram who says, just finished reading Who Moved My Cheese. Simple and insightful. Highly recommend reading it. And we'd like to hear from the rest of the audience who's joined us. We'd like to hear your views on the two books that we're talking about, on Who Moved My Cheese and The Leader Who Had No Title. And we asked you a question: whether you like change, whether you like to embrace change, or how do you see this? Vidura, how do you like change?
It's in the human nature, like not to like change, right? Like I think our ego is stopping us from changing. Even in the book, it says like never ask a person to change. You know, the best way you can do is show them how it's done. Lead by example. So once you like work in a way that's very influential, others will look up to you. Then they will learn from you. In that way, you can influence the people to change. In the book,
Okay.
it says like it's not an easy task for an organization to change. So what an organization can do is like the individual people in that organization can work in a way that they are making an impact on the other people's lives. So the other people will learn to be influential by themselves.
Vidura, how do you see the principles of the book? How do you see or value it? What are the main key takes that you see in the book?
Okay, there are actually 4 major principles that you need to adhere into if you want to lead without a title. So the first one is you need no title to be a leader, and the second one is the turbulent times build great leaders. Third one is the deeper your relationships with the people, the stronger your leadership. And the final, but not the least, is to be a great leader. First, you need to become a great person. So I think
Sorry, can you repeat the fourth one? To be a great leader?
to be a great leader, first become a great person.
Okay.
So you need to have your own personal values, which will allow you to be a good person. With that, you can be a great leader. That's what the fourth one is about.
I wish we had a thermometer to indicate is this a great person or a bad person, because literally you have to be a mix of both, and that's what a good combination comes out. And if you're challenging yourself, that's what perceives you to do different things, and that's the beauty of life. You fall, you rise up, you smile, you cry, you go through different moods. There are days where you might not have titles, but people have put you down with whatever the areas of work that you do. But it's also great, it'll be inspiring if you can focus yourself in what you do, what you're passionate about, so that it can lead you to that. Arlene, what do you think about titles? This must be very challenging in your workplace, isn't it?
I was just recalling an experience. Yeah, true. I've seen leaders who have set examples and who a lot of people look up to. But if you ask their title, it would be like something very simple. But then they lead with examples. They set standards. They they initiate growth. They initiate change. So yeah, I too believe that. I too completely believe that you don't need a title to be a leader. It's just that how you lead gives you the title. I
All
mean,
right.
people give you nicknames and titles.
Yeah, that's very sad, isn't it? I think it's only a lot towards the Asian countries that we hear these titles as a
Right.
prominent taking center score there. Do you wish Johnson had offered direct answers? Like, some people look for direct solutions. They want, okay, I want hot butter cuttlefish. I will never change to anything else. But there is a possibility that somebody else would have said, no, you can try something else that's better. It's a risk of trying it. But does Johnson ever give concrete or direct answers? How do you see him approaching through the book? We want to encourage our readers to tell them that this is the kind of answer, or does he go around and round in circles because it's a maze? How do you see this, Arlene?
Johnson doesn't give a concrete answer that how you should approach change. So if you read the book, it's all about giving insights how you could or how you could approach it. And of course, you can't give a concrete answer about change management because each person is unique, the situations are unique, how we are emotionally attached to that particular situation or a person or a thing that is getting changed is unique. So you can't give a step-by-step guide or concrete answer, this is how it should be done. But what he has done is he has given uh,
Guide.
he's given the guide or insights. If you do this will happen. So now
So,
you make your own choice.
so let's say, Arlene, a lot of them have the fear of talking. Simple. That's how simple it is, isn't it? They have the fear of talking, and as a leader, sometimes they have all these talents with them, but they just can't talk. So, if a person has to overcome something like that, does Dr. Johnson ever share anything about that?
Not really. So then, if you ask this particular situation, then you can say that if you stay with that fear for the lifetime, you will never come out of it. So you have to embrace the hurdles. You have to do a public speaking and just embrace that mocking and the reviews and the uh, whatever the comments that you take, and then you grow with it. So by fifth or sixth session, you should be better than the first day, right? So
Absolutely.
you have to go through that path, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You have to just go with the flow and accept it as it is.
Great stuff.
You're weak in your communication skill, or you're weak in your technical skills, or whatever. So you have to put effort to overcome that fear, and you have to accept the stage for it and give it a try. So that's
Uh,
what he said.
Arlene, now, since the book talks about a maze, it's always the point of finding your way. And a lot of people are very hesitant in finding. And like you said, let someone else find it and let me be the second person to follow it. Is there some sort of a positive side that we see to always let someone else to lead ahead and then for me to follow, or would I be the better person to start something first and then let others to follow? How do you see this? How would you encourage someone?
If you ask this question from me as how would I see it, uh, if I am passionate about that subject, then I would take the lead to do it. If I'm not very familiar, passionate, if I don't have the buy-in for it, then I would rather not initiate that because I won't be best at it, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you really want to do something, if you want to make that change, you can be the leader, or you can be the initiator. There's
Okay.
always there's I wouldn't say it's bad to follow.
Mm.
It's right to follow also at times because you're not the expert. So if you have an expert who leads the change, you can follow.
And there are
But you can't
circumstances.
be always the follower.
Absolutely. And there are subjects and circumstances based on the situation where you might have to follow someone and let that person take the lead. Or you can initiate, like you said, if you're passionate about something, you be the starter, which is where we want to encourage a lot of people to start up, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're also getting a lot of comments that's coming in for the question that we asked on change. Almas Marika, thank you so much for sending us that message. Take it as it comes. Keep the end in mind. Compromise the way you do it and not to compromise the end target. If you're determined on this, change will be in your DNA internally as well as insights, inputs from external parties as well. Thank you for giving us that. We love sharing comments coming from people, because it's important that we engage. And also, just reading rule number 1, don't be, and 2, contains inspiring tips as well. Thank you very much, Almas, and to all the viewers who have joined us on Pick a Book Flipside webinar series. We're going to go back to Vidura to ask him now, principles. We're scared of principals who are in school, but when we speak of principles in real life, and especially in organizations, adapting to that is really tough. Sometimes we see organization principles, we kind of play the fool saying, it's like very school culture. And then sometimes it's a very open culture. Different people like it in different ways, different sectors. Some people are very comfortable with the open culture, some people are not, and it can be based on the kind of industry it is. But how do you see the book supporting an organization, industry, private companies, etc., on the principles of what's being taught in the book?
I think the book mainly pushes the reader towards an open culture, but I don't think
Okay.
it is applicable to all the organizations out there.
Vidura, can you give us an example? We love to hear this open culture as to how it's accepted, because it's very slow here. We see it a lot only in Colombo, but we like to introduce that outside as well into other parts of the country.
Yeah, so the organization culture is taught under the second principle, which is that the turbulent times build great leaders. So it says that that's saying that if you don't feel anything, you are moving too slow. So like
If you don't feel anything, you're moving slow.
you are moving too slow.
Okay. Okay.
So, said by a formula racer. So he
Okay.
has said, if you are not feeling anything, you are moving too slow. So he's asking that people to move through a turbulent period, because in that book it says like always stay out of your comfort zone. If your comfort zone is valuated at 10, stay at 12. In
But
that way, you can.
if I'm sorry to interrupt, but if we are in our comfort zone, there are no problems. We're going
Yeah,
through a straight road.
yeah, you are going through a straight road. So that's the problem there. So if you want to become better versions of ourselves, we need to step out of the comfort zone. We need to take that leap. It's not an easy task, but we need to do it. So coming back to the open culture, in the book specifically, it says a couple of things that a leader should do if he wants to have a good culture in the organization. The first one is he needs to speak with candor. Like the meaning is like you need to speak out if there's any issue that's going on within the organization that's harming the purpose of the organization. You need to speak up. You need to speak up with your people. You need to communicate. If there's any issue, you need to actually communicate with your leaders, superiors, and say this issue is there. But when it comes to communication, you need to be really respectful to the people who are there, and in that way you can have your culture. And secondly, you need to prioritize. You need to make sure, like I saw the comment on Facebook right now. It says that compromise the way you do it and do not compromise the end target. So this is one thing that you need to prioritize whatever the things you are doing. Like if you have a couple of work, you need to make sure that you do not compromise the end goal. So on third, adversity beats opportunity. So if we take the COVID situation currently that's happening, uh, there has been a remarkable growth in startups. Because it said that a period like this, a period with full of trouble, is the best time to start something new. So you need to make the adversity an opportunity. So on fourth, respond versus react. So this says that if you are going through any issue, if you are a good leader, you need to always take the things positively. If you have done a mistake, you need to take it positively. You need to make sure that this is a learning for you. In that way, you can make sure that even through the mistakes, that you are learning something, and be positive about it. So you are ready to make mistakes even in the future. So you can learn something out of it. And the fifth, the last one, it says kudos for everyone. So when you are working in an environment, if you see people who are going through a lot of challenges and achieving greater things, you need to wish them good luck and appreciate their efforts. In that way, you can have a good culture within your organization. Best example is in my company. If there's a simple thing that's done by an employee, it will be posted in the WhatsApp group, and everyone will be congratulating that person for the depths that that person has gone to achieve that, make that achievement. So it's really important that we celebrate all the achievements that's done by all the people within the organization, not the managers, not the top tier leaders, even the janitor, even the executive, even the smallest person in the organization. In that way, we can have a better culture within the organization.
Fantastic, Vidura. And I think we've seen a lot of people where individually, if they have won a certain campaign, worked out something positive, we've seen HR or the admin team would actually give a cupcake or some sort of a coffee, just keeping on the table to say, hey, congrats, we're very proud to have you in our organization. These are little things that has to be developed in a culture where we appreciate maybe a little tap on the back, not by just sending a formal email saying, hey, congratulations. We all want that little embracing emotion shown in a simple, tiny thing, isn't it, Arlene? Being in a human resources, I'm sure you have had a better experience in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally believe. But then, as you said, the word culture, it plays a major part. So, for we as HR, what we do is we have to give people what do they value. So in certain cultures, you have youngsters who are very outgoing. They cupcake would be the ideal thing which can lighten up their day. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, cupcake would do. But there are there if your aging curve is towards the right, you have people who are matured, family people and all that. That wouldn't suit. So you have to understand, as HR professionals, you have to understand what your employees value, and we should be able to give that. But however, that part of encouragement is important.
Yeah.
Either it's a cupcake or a 10,000 rupees voucher, it's important. It's equally important.
And sometimes it's also important to say thank you for being a part of the organization.
Sorry, those are
Yeah.
very
Because a lot of people do tend to take work out of people, and it's only just end of the year, Christmas, here we go, scream and party, let's throw a party for the staff, let's remind them how important they are. But there is no value of appreciation during that term of year. These are certain companies that we're talking about, not everyone as a whole. But we like to encourage this culture. If there are people watching us, the importance of bringing in that openness to people so that everyone could also celebrate. And it's also, I think Vidra would agree on this, to avoid jealousy among colleagues, which is something that's very, very competitive. But they encourage positive competition. But at the same time, it's also good to support your friend, because end of the day, you want to be happy with what you've done in terms of your work and support a friend, isn't it, Vidura?
Yeah,
Or would
of
you
course.
like to take all the trophies home?
No, we actually need to, be really supportive and be really kind to the people around us. So, as I mentioned, the third principle is the deeper your relationship, the stronger your leadership. So, you need to make sure that you have good relationships with the people you are surrounded with. It said that love is the hidden secret to any business. So, if your relationships are strong with any stakeholder, not only the employees, you need to have good relationships with your all the stakeholders. In that way, you can have better relationship, better growth within your organization.
All right. We're coming down to the last couple of minutes on Flipside webinar series. We'd like to thank all our viewers who have joined us. If you have any questions, please do send in. We've got Vidura and Arlene. We'll be happy to take you through their questions. I'm going to ask Arlene a very hard-hitting question. Why is it so difficult to accept change? Why can't we change? Why do we stick back to the same routine that we're very, like he said, our own comfort zone?
So it's not all the changes are difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
So say like you're a person who don't mind sitting in a cubicle or a workstation or in a lobby and work. So your manager or somebody comes and asks you to go to a cubicle and work, or go to the lobby and work. It wouldn't be a big change for you because you don't value it, as long as you get a couch or whatever to sit and work. So it's
Correct.
not hard. So the changes are hard when you are emotionally connected to that particular thing, or it's when your emotional status is at a risk, you're emotionally threatened. That's where it's difficult to accept the change. So not all the changes are difficult to everyone.
So,
Uh,
Alin, do you mean to say that we're supposed to be like cold ice, do our work, but or how do we do this?
I don't mean to say that. What I meant to say it, if uh, if we are emotionally connected, you have to have a different process. You have to go through a different process to accept the change. So for you it will be different. For me it will be different. For some, maybe Dura, it will be different. But however, we have to go through that phase. Then we have to find our own ways and means to handle it. So nobody would be able to give you in a step by step guide on how to deal with that. But the very essence of it, why we are very resistant to change, is that because we are emotionally threatened, and that emotional threat is individual. It's personal. So it's you have to handle it. Nobody else would handle it for you. You have
Okay.
to find your own way, and for that you have to understand, okay, why is it important for me to change, and what is the path I have to take. So those are individual choices that we make, uh, and understand or make ourselves convince ourselves to go through that path. So that's what he says, in the author also says, uh, the old beliefs may not lead you to new cheese. So you have to first understand that old belief is no more going to help me. So until that stage, you have to endure that difficulty.
All right, Alin. Vidura, so mixed emotions, etc., but it's also important to have self-leadership. What do you see as the path to self-leadership? Vidura, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
on
we
mute.
all love the mute button a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a bit of noise. My
Okay.
house is near, that's why I
Okay.
mute it all the time.
Okay. Go
Uh,
ahead.
so, so quoting from the book, the fourth principle is to be a good leader, you need to become a good person. So you need to have good personal values. So in this book, there are 7 fundamentals for personal leadership. So this is totally from the book. What it says is that there are 7 things that you can practice in order to be a better version of yourself for your personal development. So the first thing is learning. Like learn something new every day if you can. Like it says, if you are going to train like a person who train like an athlete who wins the gold medal in Olympics. So what that person does is he wakes up early in the morning, then he practices to be the best in the world. So learn like that, train like that. Then affirmations. Thirdly, visualization, journaling, goal setting, exercise, nutrition. So out of the all 7 fundamentals, I'm not saying that all those 7 fundamentals needs to be practiced in order to be a better version of yourself. But if you can practice at least 1 or 2, like as an example, the exercise. The waking up early is part of an exercise. Like trying to meditate at least 5 minutes a day, that's part of an exercise. Eating healthy, that's part of an exercise. So if you can practice those simple things, that will add value to your life, to your personal life, to your personal qualities. So in that way, you can be a better leader.
All right. Thank you. Great stuff there, Vidura. We're coming down to the last and final minutes of Flipside webinar series, and we'd like to ask you just 2 final questions. Why would you encourage someone to buy this book? Arlene, go ahead. Arlene is mute now. I think we're going to ban this take off mute. Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is much talked about, and it is not something new. It has been always there. This change, whether it's personal life, professional life, social. Uh, you come with, even like this tech savvies. How many technical innovations happening? You have to change. You have to rapidly change. So for anybody, change management is important, but then they also have to understand the essence of it, that there's no guide for it. You have to understand the insight, which is through the book. He has explained it very nicely. What would you do if what you should do in certain situations, and what would you do what would happen if you don't do it, you know so I think for any age across, and if you're a working mother, or a career woman, or a student, this book would help you to see change in a different way than you were seeing it before. So that's why I think it's important for you to read it. It's simple, but it wouldn't intimidate your intelligence.
Arlene, let's say there are a lot of negative people out there. Would you encourage them to start with this book in a very positive aspect? And is that something that they can do with?
Negative people towards change, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
adapting to change, not willing to change.
Not willing to change, being in my comfort zone. Yeah,
Okay.
this is for them. Yeah.
All right. Because a lot of people will be, if you start reading the book thinking in a negative mindset too, that will not work. So you have to embrace it in such a way, thinking that, yes, I will take that initial step in trying to make the effort of making a change. Vidra, why should people buy The Leader Who Had No Title? Why should our viewers
Okay,
buy this book?
okay. I think this book should be. Anyone can read this, but this will be really important for employees and managers and people who lead. Anyone in any organization can read this book. The importance of this is this book will guide you through a journey where you can be a better employee for an organization, be a better version of yourself. Not even in the work life, even in the your family life, you can be a better version. Whereas this book guides how to balance your work life and your family life both. So it's really important because at the beginning of this story, the main character is a young veteran who had lost his parents, who lost his friends. So he has been going through a tough period of time. So he meets a couple of mentors who teaches those four principles to him. So if you are an employee who is struggling at work life, at balancing work life and your other life, I think this book will guide you to be the best version of yourself to your family and to your work life. So I would recommend this book to anyone, but especially for the people who are struggling at the moment in office life. If you feel like you feel very dull in
Let
office,
down,
and if you feel
lethargic. Yeah. Let
yeah
down,
yeah if you
lethargic. Yeah. Yeah.
yes if you feel it in that way, this book will be the most ideal book for you to read.
Vidura, I also think that with the concept of work from home, a lot of people lost their jobs. So there's a lot of negativity that was created within the span of 2 years, one and a
Yes.
half years. It sounds like two, though. How do you see this supporting this? I know you mentioned about startups, and that's where they saw a positive reaction. And based on the adversity, yes, it was a brilliant scope for them. We even had fantastic panelists before whom we've interviewed on Pick a Book who said, I was doing this in the corporate sector, but I started my own business and it has sprouted way better than I expected. Is this how you'd see to someone like that?
Yeah, but if you talk about working from home, I think it's really a difficult task because like I think in November we had to work from home. It was really difficult even though we were staying at home. There was no personal touch. Like there were no people around us. It was really difficult. So we actually used to live around the people, not work in front of a laptop because everyone is not designing, right? Everyone is working. Mostly our roles are to like be mixed with people. So we need to be around people in order to work in the optimum way. So I think talking about working from home, no, I don't think this book will be real because uh, to work from home, you need to have a different set of mindset. I don't think it's not something that you can get practice to if you are going to work from home because the main thing is you are not working with people closely. You are working remote. It's really difficult. So I don't recommend this book to anyone like if he or she is trying to get something out of this book for that.
All right. Thank you very much to the both of you for bringing us to two great books, great insights. Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson spoke a lot towards simple, intimidating, and the intelligence, and also adapting to change. It's also interesting because it's a bit of a puzzle and a maze. It doesn't give you a direct approach, but it also gives you a kind of a guide as to how you can move forward and approach yourself. So those who are interested in believing in change, and also if you're not, maybe you can read this book. And that's what Dr. Spencer Johnson speaks about. The Leader Who Had No Title, Robin Sharma has a number of positive books. And this is probably one of the areas that he speaks about, 7 fundamentals, bringing out principles. As you can see, Vidura has taken the step of waking up in the morning. And I think he has several other books which has more encouraging factors as well. But to be a better person, to be a positive person, this is the kind of book that speaks volumes of it. Thank you very much. But if I have to end to the both of you, reading these 2 books, what sort of made you or interested you to go into the next one? What's the kind of next book that you guys wanted to read? Because Arlene, I think this has taught you a lot to support you in your corporate life. But what's the next book that you are interested in reading?
I'd like to read Vidura's the book that Vidura presented because it sort of I related a lot of things that you don't have to have this title, which I have seen many leaders who have done that.
Yeah.
I've worked with. So I'd like to read that. That's something it's in my bucket list now.
Yeah, I want to stop this uncle culture that we address to people, and it's very difficult based on the environment or the organization. Vidura, what's the book? I know you took 1 month to read this book, so let's come down for the next one now.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. You finished a book, because a lot of people find it really difficult to finish a book. Some of them are like 24 hours they do. But this is what Flipside is all about. We want people to read a book. So what's the next book that you're interested in?
Actually, the second one will be The Virgin Maze by Richard Branson.
Okay.
It's also about leadership because there are some personal developments that I'm seeking within myself.
Leadership contents. That's what
Yeah.
we hope for.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to finish off that.
All right. Thank you very much, Arlene. Thank you, Vidura, for joining us on Flipside. It's been a great session with you and for taking us through 2 great facts on 2 great books, lessons from fantastic books. Thank you to our viewers as well. Sam J says, thank you so much, guys, for bringing these life-changing facts. Very well appreciated. Pravina Sundaralingam, well said, Vidura and Arlene. Indeed, an interesting session. Jayani Pereira, it's only after we step outside our comfort zone that we begin to change, grow, and transform. Pravina also joins us on YouTube and says, indeed, an interesting session. Wherever you are, any part of the world, we're very honored to have all of you with us, sharing your insights, your comments, and also being a part on the Flipside webinar series. Relin, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on a Flipside webinar series. If you want to be a part of Pick a Book, you can check it out on their website. That's where you can get more information, or check Pick a Book Sri Lanka for all the details that you need to know. And I'm Sharon Mascarini. It's great to be your moderator for today. Until we see you at another session. Take care. Stay safe because the numbers are increasing and it's not looking too good, but also enjoy a fantastic weekend all the way. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.